Nokuzola Tolashe announced the extension in a joint statement. Refilo Mekwa reports.
SASSA beneficiaries have been urged to make sure that they change to the black post-bank card as soon as they can and well ahead of the March 20th deadline. Both the ministers emphasized that grant payments will continue as per usual even after the 20th of March deadline. And if beneficiaries haven't exchanged their cards by then, their grants will still be paid, but they will need to visit their nearest post office branch to access their funds. Mobile officers will also be dispatched in rural areas to assist as many beneficiaries as possible.
The High Court in Thohoyandou, sitting in the Waterval Magistrate Court outside Louis Trichardt in Limpopo, is delivering judgment in the case of a 53-year-old man accused of killing 7 family members. Enoch Ndo allegedly shot the family members in Jimmy Jones village near Malamulele on a Christmas day in 2021. The shooting is believed to have followed a family inheritance dispute. The Gauteng Education Department has dismissed allegations that it promised to build over 4,000 satellite schools across the province. It is responding to Democratic Alliance's allegation related to overcrowding at schools. The department spokesperson Steve Mabona says some satellite schools have already started operating while others will be completed by June.
As a department, we must correct the assertion that we said we will build over 4,000 satellite schools. We never said that. We announced that the satellite schools we introduced in 2025 will provide over 4,417 additional spaces, which will then alleviate pressure in the high pressure schools.
Rand Water has warned Gauteng consumers that the entire water system in the province will collapse if they don't reduce their consumption. The bulk water supplier has particularly called on the Tshwane and Johannesburg metros to encourage residents to lower their water consumption as storage levels in reservoirs drop rapidly. Rand Water spokesperson Makino Simaru.
If we follow the trajectory and we don't make any changes, the system will collapse. But Rainwater, as an organization, we are trying to protect the integrity of our system. So if we reach a certain level in terms of the levels of our reservoirs, we will ensure that levels are introduced from Rainwater side. At the moment, we are giving the 3 metros an opportunity to introduce levels from their sides, to introduce restrictions, to ensure that there are interventions so that we manage the consumption.
A new study has captured and analyzed the scent of 9 human mummies from ancient Egypt. This is an effort to understand how well preserved they are and to shed light on the ambling process that was believed to help the elite cross into the afterlife. The international research effort is the first systematic odor and chemical analysis of multiple Egyptian mummies from a range of time periods. The BBC's Paddy McGuire has the details.
In air extracted from sarcophagi sealed for thousands of years, researchers in Cairo detected woody, spicy, herbal and rancid notes, and also hints of smoke, mould, flowers and dust. They used the human nose and scientific instruments to investigate the aromas from the elaborately wrapped bodies of Egypt's ancient ruling classes. The new approach aims to remove the need for samples to be taken from the mummy itself and to help conservators know when preservation treatment may be needed, as well as to bring back to life some of the smells and fragrances of the times of the ancient pharaohs.
Recapping the top story, the Social Security Agency, SASSA, has extended the deadline for beneficiaries to change from gold to black post-bank cards from the 28th of this month to the 20th of next month. I am Ondilambana for SAFM News Headlines at 1:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Upgrade your TV game with the SABC TV License Rewards. It's your golden ticket to VIP treatment. Imagine signing up at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za, racing through a few steps, and bam! Instant reward. Just for being you. Plus, pocket up to 500 Rand back. That's the cherry on top. But wait, it's not just about the cash. We're talking about sweet deals and epic rewards. Think discounts on all your favorite things, from shopping to travel and entertainment. Your payment unlocks a world of fun. So, why wait? Dive into the excitement. Join the SABC's TV License Rewards at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za. Hit those buttons and watch your TV experience level up. T's and C's apply. Remember, TV license fees aren't just payments, they make a difference.
The Buccaneers want to demonstrate that they are the reigning champions and nothing will stop them from marching on to the quarterfinals. Meanwhile, Bakaha have a different game plan to return to Hampatele with happy faces. This is the Nedbank Cup Last 16. Orlando Pirates FC tackles Baroka FC. This Saturday, 15 February at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC1 and at 3 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game, 'cause I'm your lady.
On this special day of love, SAFM wishes you all a happy Valentine's Day. Whether you're celebrating with someone special or embracing self-love, let's make today a day of kindness, joy, and connection. Happy Valentine's Day from all of us at SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Emile Sosa Paulo, Eanda Sasa, and the Salabuna, Lord and the Goye, Logo Handelawi, Roma and we are Pina, Logo Hampangawi, Songi Minnesota Meba, Logo Handelawi, Roma and we are Pina, Logo Hampangawi, Songi Minnesota, some of me, phambi kwakho anisanawo bomnamandla incede bawo uzondamkele uyikhombe indlela ukuze ndihambe lokulandelawe noma wena uyaphila lokuhamba ngawe zonke imini sobomi bam lokulandelawe noma wena uyaphila lokuhamba ngawe zonke imini sobomi bam sobomi bam sobomi bam sobomi bam this way in half a channel and it flatele and it channel lokulandelawe noma wena uyaphila lokuhamba ngawe zonke imini sobomi bam lokulandelawe noma wena uyaphila lokuhamba ngawe zonke imini sobomi bam lokulandelawe noma wena uyaphila lokuhamba ngawe zonke imini sobomi bam sobomi bam sobomi bam sobomi bam
It is Bongiziwe Mabandla coming through with Ndizoglandela, one of the greatest vocal exports that we have coming out from this new generation of South African folk singers. And that is how we kick off the show today with this incredible song, vocally just one of a kind, really, taking us to 10 past 1 o'clock on this fine Friday afternoon. So much is happening today. So much is happening today, as per usual, and so many interesting developments as well. I think one of the biggest questions in the last couple of months, the last 3 or 4 months, has been around what happens to Dr. Mbuyiseni Dlozi, who has finally taken the media circuit in the last week or two to just clue us all into his thinking and, of course, the processes that led to him ultimately resigning, confirming his resignation from the Economic Freedom Party at the end of last week. And, of course, this week he has been on a media tour, as they like to call it, just taking us all into his confidence, into his thinking, and sharing his perspective and his journey with us. And just this very morning confirming his next steps, which have been wildly welcomed thus far. And he has reiterated once again that he's moving away from party politics for the moment, because his heart and soul, from what we sense and what he articulates, still very much belong to the movement in which he dedicated the last 10 and a bit years of his life to. And so he does not see himself moving to another political home, and he's stepped away from party politics. But he's given us an interesting turn of events, as to where and what he's going to be doing next. It's been a bag of mixed emotions, but like I said, in general, everybody welcoming the news, because I think it eased a lot of folks who were hoping that he does not, quote unquote, betray and abandon them. A lot of supporters were really just hand to chest for the last couple of weeks, couldn't breathe, and hoping that he would not go over, across the floor, so to speak. And so with this interesting confirmation of what his next career move is going to be, it makes for interesting dynamics in the media space of South Africa. There's definitely going to be an interesting shift in the media space in South Africa as a response to, this next journey. But I think very important conversations are definitely going to come out from his next move. So we congratulate him on joining the broadcasting fraternity, and we wish him well on his future endeavors. Right. From our perspective on the show, I mean, we couldn't ignore that, right? Because it is the biggest news of the morning thus far. And from our perspective on the show today, it's Friday, and of course, on Friday we like to take things a little bit easy and just wind down the week that was, and today is no different. We're going to be catching up with TV presenter, actress, writer, as well as voice artist Thembi Samdoda is going to be joining us for Full Access, and then we're going to dip into a little stages, pages, screens, and more in a bit. And then we're going to catch up with Ugogo, who's now a writer and an advocate for blending traditional wisdom with modern life. Noglinda Mkhize is going to be joining us on the show. She's got a brand new book out, and we can't wait to unpack the contents of that. It's just gone 1:15 o'clock on The Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, on SAFM, leading the conversations that move the nation.
These are the weekend shows on SAFM. Music of Africa with Shayla Ndikumana. The Jet Set Breakfast with Michelle Constant. Seasons with Khomotso KG Mweketsi. The soundtrack of your life with Ernest Pillay. Weekend Soundowner Classics with Kutlwano Masote. Spotlight with Zai Khan. The Weekend with John Gerika. Rhythm of Africa with Shayla Ndikumana. This is SAFM.
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAFM, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide with me, KG Mweketi.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
Every person, no matter who you are, what music you're inclined to listen to, and what you do with your weekends, you need a weekend playlist. It's that musical mix of music that accompanies the lazy weekends, whether catching up with friends and family or just taking some time to reflect. Tune in to The Soundtrack of Your Life with me, Ernest Pillay, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 on SAFM.
The whispers in the morning as I look in your
This February, the month of love and self-care, at SAFM we're celebrating with you, spreading love to all. Let's embrace kindness, connection, and self-care. And as always, SAFM will continue leading the conversations that move us through love, wellness, and everything in between. This month, let's love ourselves, love each other, and keep the conversation going. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
'Cause I'm your lady and you are my man.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
By the way, SASSA has called on all its beneficiaries to go and replace their existing SASSA cards for a new black card. And the deadline was initially set for the replacing of your SASSA gold cards to the 28th of February. But it has since been extended to the 20th of March. And this comes as thousands of beneficiaries have been queuing outside service points across the country to get the new black card. So if you are a SASSA beneficiary, that deadline to replace your SASSA Post Bank Gold card has been extended to the 20th of March. And no longer the 28th of February. But with that said, it's always best. We know that we are a nation that likes to procrastinate and leave things until the very last hour. And then we complain about the inconvenience of it all. So it's always best to just go and get these things done sooner rather than later. I did see, though, And I did hear some of the conversation as well coming out of the station this morning, that a lot of folks who had thus far gone to do the process were not really talking about how unbearable, the process was. It seems like it's a very simple process. It takes just a couple of minutes, between 5 to 10 minutes to get it done. But the issue was around just the limitation of resources of the assistants that have been dispatched to go and help folks get the process going. But once you got into the respective facility and got started with the process, the actual process itself isn't long. It was just really just the queues to get in there. So the deadline to replace your SASSA Post Bank Gold Card has been extended to the 20th of March, and it gives you more time to now transition to the Post Bank Black Card. And according to Post Bank, this new Black Card has enhanced security features and it complies with updated banking standards. And to my understanding as well is that your Gold Card will stop functioning once this deadline hits. So you don't want to be caught stranded come the time for you to be collecting your deserved SASSA benefits. So make sure you get this message to Gogo Nomkulu so that they know, or help them facilitate this. There's also a short text number, and I'll get that number, that you can SMS and actually do the physical, I don't know if it's an application or just like verification of details. They've not been very clear of that, but there is a short text number, and we'll get it for you as well and communicate that for you, that you can use, from the comfort of your home in order to do that. And then when you present yourself at the facility, you're just really presenting yourself to go collect your card, and having done all that admin beforehand. So remember, please, to get this done sooner rather than later. It's gone 20 past 1 o'clock on the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, on SAFM, leading the conversations that move you. We're going to take a quick pause, and then we're going to come back and we're going to look at the latest installment of the Forbes Women Africa Leading Women Summit that is coming up.
The National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Can you tell us more about the circumstances that led to the inmate escaping?
It is still a scene which is active in terms of the investigations that we are conducting. But what I can share with you and the listeners is that this inmate was part of a SPEN, in simple English, a work team that was allocated to work within the grounds of the facility. So, and he was also allocated to status of being a monitor. So for an inmate to get to that particular level, it means that someone who has worked hard and managed to be given some degree of responsibility.
Singabako Numano is the Department of Correctional Services spokesperson.
You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM. Missed it? Find the podcast at safm.co.za. Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
All right, we're catching up with the managing editor of Forbes Africa and Forbes Women Africa, and we're talking around the 2025 gathering of the Forbes Women Africa Leading Women Summit. And we know that this is a summit that gathers influential female leaders from across the continent. And this year, the theme is To the Power of 10, the Rule Breakers in Africa's Next Chapter. How are you doing this afternoon, Renuka?
I'm doing perfectly well, Bridget. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thank you for the time. This being the 10th edition of the Forbes Women Africa Leading Women Summit, scheduled to take place at the front end of March, on the 5th of March. Firstly, I guess let's reflect on the last 10 years of which the publication has hosted this gathering of leading women from across the continent.
Certainly, Bridget, it's been a remarkable 10 years. Imagine, to sustain something like this, it just means it speaks to the kind of power that we have on the continent, the female, powerhouses that we've had in the last 10 years coming up, and also in top leadership positions. The narrative has certainly changed. And the fact that we've been committed for the last 10 years to highlighting these diverse voices is actually testament also to the whole ABN team. I mean, we are both the CNBC Africa and the Forbes Africa teams that comprise the ABN group, and we've together as a team pulled off this mega event. And this year, the 10th year, it's going to be a big, bold, blockbuster event, promises to be our biggest yet. And I would, even so far as go on to say that this is perhaps Africa's most powerful and biggest women's summit.
And summits like this, folks might wonder sometimes the benefit to continental discourse and the benefit to leadership development, that happens in such gatherings.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at it, it's a multi-generational audience that will be there. And it's not just the speakers on stage who have stellar CVs. I mean, if you look at it even off stage, you'll have some great examples. I mean, they sort of mirror, the stage is only sort of a microcosm of what you actually get off stage. And lots of networking opportunities, because the kind of power you have in the room under the same roof, you have Olympians, you have Nobel Peace Prize winners, you have Grammy Award-winning artists, and these people are sitting to your left and right. And, when you network with them, there are some great collaborations that come out of that. And over the years, we've had some great examples of that. For example, I can tell you, we have this the Spotlight segment that gets us a standing ovation every year. And every year we bring together a room full of strangers, and you hear about people coming together to make music mashups and collaborations. And I think it's great because the younger people in the audience see their visible role models on stage, and the fact that these conversations go beyond the ballroom into our social media, and the conversations continue on all our platforms editorially as well through the year, in print and online.
Yeah. I want to touch on this year's theme, which is to the power of 10, the rule breakers in Africa's next chapter. It alludes to perhaps even casting an eye forward to future captains of industry and future leaders on the continent.
Absolutely, Bridget. So it speaks to the last 10 years, to the power of 10 and the power of the collective. And of course, it looks at the next chapter of leadership on the African continent, and especially now with the new world order, shifting geopolitics, etc. I think we need to have these re-engage, and we need to form deeper connections. And we need to also look at the rule breakers, who are the women realigning themselves, what is the kind of recalibration that's happening in our economies and in business, and how are women leading that narrative. If you look at our current issue, for example, we have the one that's just gone on shelves. It's the over 30, under 50 list. So we're looking at women who are these rule breakers in their 30s and their 40s. So I think most of these conversations are well represented at the event. You have everything from fintech to AI to climate change, everything addressed. And of course, all the stars in the creative economy will also come together at the forum this year. It's going to be as I said, very, very, we're going to really raise the decibel in terms of conversations and in terms of music that you will actually see.
Let's pause here for a second, Renuka, as we take the headline news, and then we'll come back on the other side and continue exploring this conversation that's centered around the 10th edition of the Forbes Women Africa Leading Women Summit.
Great.
Thank you, Bridget. In the news headlines on SAFM News, I am Ondelambana, and a very good day. Police have reported another case of alleged involvement of its members in the illegal mining matter in Stelfontein. The Social Security Agency, SASSA, has extended the deadline for beneficiaries to change from gold to black postcards from the 28th of this month to the 20th of next month. U.S. President Donald Trump says he's reached a deal with Indian Prime Minister. It relates to India importing more U.S. oil and gas as part of plans to shrink the trade deficit between the two countries. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
We are in conversation with the managing editor of Forbes Africa and Forbes Woman Africa. Renuka Methel joins us, and we're talking around the 10th edition of the Forbes Woman Africa Leading Women Summit that sees women gathering on the 5th of March this year under the theme To the Power of 10, the rule breakers in Africa's next chapter. And of course, the summit also celebrates International Women's Day, which will bring together inspiring women from across Africa to share their stories and exchange idea. And I think, Renuka, they sort of... There's a heightened consciousness amongst female leaders to, especially the forerunners, to reach back into to the younger generation and to exchange knowledge and to exchange experience, but also to a conscious decision seems to be made by the collective to send the ladder down. Are we seeing sort of am I sensing that correct when one moves in these spaces and has these conversations that, yes, it's always existed that female leaders understood the power and the positions that they held, but now more than ever, there seems to be a galvanizing of maximizing on that?
Bridget, spot on. And I have seen this in the last 10 years. The queen bee syndrome, although people say it still exists, I don't believe so. I mean, I think I do see a lot of, older, the veterans, so to speak. They really do lift up the younger ones. And that needs to happen a lot more. And I see that happening at the summit where everybody is, is just one. We're all the same under the same roof. We're listening to the same conversations. And in the sense that, everybody feels a need to unify and that they know that the strength is in numbers. So as I said, every hyphenate in their own way, especially with AI and technology that we're leveraging off. I think we all have multiple reference points, and we're willing to accommodate different voices and diversity in all of these conversations. And I do see that, it's very heartwarming to see that when a minister in the audience looks up and looks at a spotlight speaker, a 14-year-old spotlight speaker, and says, "I've been through that too. And, you did great." So that kind of encouragement to the younger people, I think that really helps, especially when you see when it comes from these visible role models. And that's what this platform actually offers, that kind of connection. And that is the key word that I would use for the summit, really. It's forging.
Renuka, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yeah.
We
thought it was a long answer.
No. We thought we lost you there for a second. And speaking of speakers, in past years, you've had the likes of obviously former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, Naomi Campbell, Amina J. Mohammed, and last year's recipient for the Businesswoman of the Year award went to the Chief Executive Officer of Ebony Life, a media mogul, really, and a self-made woman, Nigeria's Mo Abudu. And this just speaks to the power and the reach also of the platform and the community. How do you see the role of African women leaders in shaping the continent's economic and social futures?
So, oh my God, that's a completely different conversation. It just makes smart business sense, isn't it, to have women shaping those futures. But, I just would like to get to a point where this is not even a discussion point, right? Where is a woman's role in shaping the economic future? And I would think Africa is actually streets ahead now. If you look at some of the political establishments, for example, the governments have started embracing the fact that female leadership is good. And I do see a lot of optimism in Africa in that respect. If you look at a country like Rwanda, for example, more than 60% of it representation in parliament. South Africa is also great. You mentioned Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. We've had some great examples on the continent of, of women in politics who've done extremely well. And also in business. I mean, if you look at the business tycoons, if you look at Mo Abudu, somebody like Mo Abudu, she's a great example of somebody who's made it internationally as well. She's been on a list, the Forbes list globally as well. So some great stellar, spectacular examples that are coming out. And the fact that we've managed to attract most of these names to our forum, everybody from Angelique Kidjo, obviously she did that virtually for us once. We also had two So 2 years when we did the event virtually. But Olympians, we've had, a Nobel Peace Prize winner last year. We've had Grammy Award-winning artists. We've had, leading business tycoons, both from Africa and abroad. We had Sabrina Elba attend the, and she was sharing examples of her entrepreneurship and how she is focusing on Africa in a great big way. So this conversation is ongoing. As I always say, it's kind of cliched in a sense. Are we still asking these questions to ourselves? But hopefully one day, maybe in 10 years' time, we should get to a point of equity where we are saying we don't need these summits anymore. Where it's not a point anymore, even though the World Economic Forum says it'll take another 100 years. I mean, let's just pray that we don't have these cliched conversations anymore. But then we have to, even if you think it's a cliche to say that, women in business, it's still a good question. I think we still need to reconvene and reiterate why it is good, show the facts, show the numbers. And that's why we need these experts up on stage to say why it has worked for them, and what have their learnings been, what have their mistakes been, and then let's just use that as our greatest takeaway. How did they make it, and how can we do it too?
Absolutely. Historically, the summit has partnered up with great brands and corporate entities just to enhance, obviously, the summit's mission. But let's talk about the role as well of corporate allies, the role that they play in advancing conversations and real tangible change and participation in gender equity.
So, big business, as we know it, is now definitely very much in on this conversation. DEI is a mandate that everybody takes very seriously. It's no longer just a tick mark, or it's no longer lip service. And at least this is from my experience meeting with these corporates and some of the female leaders heading up various important departments. And I find that they've embraced this full-heartedly. And one of the things that we do very well at Forbes Africa is not just talk about the billionaires and the multimillionaires. It's also understanding, how the township economy works, for example, or understanding how the micro entrepreneurs come up. And I see a lot of these corporates now fully in on that challenge of bringing up the micro entrepreneurs, for example. So you find a number of these corporates, the ones that you've mentioned, the ones that are partnering with us as well, working very wholeheartedly with female entrepreneurs, for example, scaling them, giving them scale, giving them access to capital, helping them come up. And a lot of the time, these challenges are being addressed in a big way by these corporates. So that's very, very heartening to see that it's no longer just lip service. They're actually walking the talk, and there is action on the ground that can be measured. And that is fully endorsed by some of these people who are benefiting from them.
Yeah. As we wrap it up, we've thrown some pretty heavy-hitting names out there who have been part of, previous summits. Who can folks look forward to this year?
So the thing is, when we started out in a small ballroom, 100 people in 2016, it was just people from, South Africa attending. And then we grew, it was people from the rest of the continent coming. And now we're at a stage where everybody from the world wants to come to this event. And I wish I had more than a day to accommodate all the speaker requests that are coming through. And I've been, cherry picking the speakers. I wish I could accommodate everybody, all the voices from every different industry. But we've had people coming in from all the way from the US to London to Cape Verde to Nigeria from across the continent. Some very, very big names. Wanjira Matai, there's Balarisha Alkita, Arunma Ote, Zuzabini Tunzi. We have Missy Ogulu, Yvonne Chaka Chaka. We have Steve Savage. We have so many names. I could reel off about 35 big names right now. But as I said, I wish I had more than a day to accommodate everybody's voice. And it's such an honor and pleasure to be, even organizing something like this. And the team takes great pride in putting this event together. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of sleepless nights, but it's a lot of good adrenaline in your system that at the end of the day, we're contributing to such a great cause. And we're all fully aligned on why this is so urgent, and it's an ongoing conversation. And it is definitely a bookmark for history.
Absolutely. Well, these are good problems to have, and a testament to the power of the platform. Once it's no longer your team going to chase the speakers, but the speakers now chasing the team.
Absolutely. Said it well.
Right. Renuka Methil, thank you so much for the conversation this afternoon. And Renuka Methil is the managing editor of Forbes Africa. And that summit is happening. It's around the corner. It's coming through on the 5th of March. Let's take a quick pause. It's just gone 2 o'clock. We're going to pause here for a second and then we'll be right back.
These are the weekend shows on SAFM. Music of Africa with Shayla Ndikumana. The Jet Set Breakfast with Michelle Constant. Seasons with Khomotso KG Mweketsi. The Soundtrack of Your Life with Ernest Pillay. Weekend Soundowner Classics with Kutlwano Masote. Spotlight with Zai Khan. The Weekend with John Kherika. Rhythm of Africa with Shayla Ndikumana. This is SAFM. Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
All right, as we get into a different kind of conversation now with Unathi Memela, who's a talent manager and publicist with Nefertiti Media. And, the question is, why do musicians need publicists? So you're looking to make your mark in the music industry, and you've ever wondered how artists secure those coveted features and placement. Enter the very unsung heroes of the music world, the music publicist. And we're going to be catching up with Unathi now. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I'm great. Let's talk about just the key responsibility and the necessity for a publicist in the world of music, but I think just in general for creatives, because it is part and parcel, one of the very many business elements that are needed if you're going to succeed and sustain within the creative disciplines.
Okay, I'm going to try, because it's there's quite a lot, but I'm going to try to compress it. The most important thing is brand strategy. Because creatives or anybody who's out in the public is a brand, so that's the main responsibility, to create a strategy around the brand. Secondly is media relations, which is a big part, to maintain good relationships with the artist, the musician, and the media, and then any other stakeholders. It could be promoters, it could be brands that you want to work with, and it's mainly controlling the narrative, from the artist side. That is the responsibilities.
Yeah, Unathi, we just want to try and switch your line. We're just getting some friction there, so we're going to switch your line, and we're going to come back and continue the conversation. We're getting into a lighter conversation now, looking at music and publicists.
Every person, no matter who you are, what music you're inclined to listen to, and what you do with your weekends. You need a weekend playlist. It's that musical mix of music that accompanies the lazy weekends, whether catching up with friends and family or just taking some time to reflect. Tune in to The Soundtrack of Your Life with me, Ernest Pillay, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 on SAFM.
The whispers in the morning as I look in your
This February, the month of love and self-care, at SAFM we're celebrating with you, spreading love to all. Let's embrace kindness, connection, and self-care. And as always, SAFM will continue leading the conversations that move us through love, wellness, and everything in between. This month, let's love ourselves, love each other, and keep the conversation going. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
'Cause I'm your lady, and you are my man.
Arts, culture, and robust conversations with Bridget Masinga.
All right, hopefully we've got a crisper line now in conversation with Unathi Memela, who is a talent manager and a publicist. We were just entering the conversation, Unathi, by looking at what necessitates for a publicist, whether we're talking for a musician or just a creative in general. Brand strategy, media relations, and controlling the narrative were three of the elements that you said speak to the responsibility of publicists and the work that they do. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily, we use the word brand very loosely in modern day society, very casually, but I think a lot of people actually don't understand when we talk brand, what are we talking about? And really, the elements that come into not only building it, but also sustaining it, and the things that must be considered around building a brand strategy.
You're actually very, very right. And I think it's very prevalent with musicians because they don't look at themselves as brands. They're just like, I love music, I'm doing this for passion. But music is actually a business, and businesses work with brands. So for it to work for you, you have to, first of all, see yourself as a brand, and that means your behavior or whatever you do going forward in your career is done from a brand perspective. I think that is what is important. And
I think understanding the fact that essentially brand can be interchanged with a business. You are the business of you, essentially.
Exactly.
It's not some gloss sort of concept out there, but essentially it is a stand-in for understanding that you are building a business that is centered around particular values and principles, and that must conduct itself in a particular manner and have deliverables.
Exactly, you spot on.
How does a music publicist sort of build and maintain relationships with media outlets? Because those become also very important, understanding the interaction and the exchange between yourself and your client and the media that speaks to what you do.
It also goes back to understanding, for the musicians to understand themselves as a brand. Brands are very specific. Music has got different genres. You've got kwaito, you've got jazz, you've got Afropop. So you have to, first of all, build relationships with the right kind of media, because not all, I'll make it an example of radio. Not all radio stations play all music. So you have to kind of target your media plan based on what genre you're doing, and talk to the media that deals with that genre of music. Secondly, it's a reciprocal relationship. The media needs the content, they want music, you are looking for publicity, so you have to kind of it's not a favor, is what the way I look at it. It's an exchange. If you interact with the media in that way, you'll have your clients will never not have interviews. And also from the publicist side, it's not good to just use the media for your gain. Sometimes I reach out to the media people that I know with information that would just be useful to them. It has nothing to do with my client, and that way I've got a good relationship.
And by way of strategies, crisis control, how do we then use publicity and the strength of publicists to handle crises and negative press or negative narratives around your artists per se?
Actually, I have a very practical example, and this particular person won't mind using it. The key thing is, so you think of what could of all sorts of scenarios before they happen. I managed Zulu Boy, for example. We had a situation where he was out of the media for a while, and then he decided he was going to delve into politics, with MK Party. And we had to have a discussion of how that decision was going to impact his music career now that he was back. And we drew up a plan of, how we're going to tackle it when these things happen. So when the things happened, we were ready because we had discussed it and we had a plan on how to deal with it.
Yeah, a lot of publicists and some within the sort of broadcast and media industry draw a distinction between being public practitioners and people who've entered the space positioning themselves as PR gurus, but having not had the academic knowledge, of sort of becoming a qualified, experienced PR, public relations practitioner. And a lot of them often criticize the fact that the difference lays in that public relations practitioners oftentimes have those skills that speak to crisis management. As much as they may not necessarily, that may not be their day-to-day positioning of their agencies and their business, because that can be a speciality field, but it is something that they fully understand, and it's an arsenal of their professional toolkit, how to crisis manage, versus perhaps somebody, Bridget, who just decided, because I've been in media and I have connections and I have relationships, I'm now going to position myself as a PR person for up and coming creatives and presenters. How important is it for those who practice within this sector to have that arsenal, to have that broader understanding of that PR is not just about building a brand and getting people magazine covers and getting them exposure, but PR is about understanding the entire value chain of public relations?
I'm actually very glad that you mentioned this question. Those people are very problematic. The people that decide just because they've got a network of people, they can now do publicity. What they don't understand is that it's actually a science. I went to school for it for 3 years. Publicity is a science. It's just that public relations. It's the science of communication. So it's like what you said now, it's important to know what's happening in the media space in general, because it's not just targeted at one particular industry. Risk management, you need to have very good interpersonal skills. And you need to read because it's constantly changing. And also there's an industry body that kind of stipulates behavior conditions of, if you're in the public relations business, these are the do's and don'ts. And if you haven't studied, at least go on the internet and Google. But a lot of the people that want to be publicists, it's because they want to be famous by association, especially in the media business. You see them on red carpets, you see them everywhere. So if you are a publicist and you are seen more than your client should fire you, because nobody should see you. Your work should only be reflected in the gains of your client. You have no business being in the public.
And the role, how has the role of publicity evolved in recent years, and considering the rise also of social media and digital platforms, and that a lot of people now have accessibility to control their own narratives, to they have the ability to reach their fans one-on-one, but also understanding that could present some cons for them if not used appropriately, or not used with the right kind of strategic thinking.
It's a blessing and a curse. It's a thing, because now the narrative of people's brands is not reliant on certain gatekeepers who can decide they're going to block so-and-so from getting publicity. So that is a good thing, that you can have your own community online, speak to them, they speak your language, you understand each other. On the other end, everybody thinks they are a journalist. So people with their own podcast, so it can get a bit messy, because now you can't control what's happening, because there's so many people that are now, in inverted commas, their media on the internet. So it's just how you need to understand how the space works and kind of work around it based on whatever your strategy is.
Unathi Memela, thank you so much for the time. And Unathi is a talent manager and publicist with Nefertiti Media. We're just talking the role of publicists, specific to musicians, but broadly as well in the creative sectors. We are fast approaching the top of the hour in the next couple of minutes, but coming up on the other side of this, we're going to be catching up with actor Ernest Ndlovu. You definitely don't want to miss that. On Fridays, we wind down the week in a very easy, mellow way because we've been bombarded by so much conversation and discourse during the course of the week, unpacking all those social political issues that affect us on a day-to-day as individuals and, of course, as a collective of citizens. But Fridays, we like to just relax and pretend as though we have no care in the world and take things nice and easy. And with that said, though, I know if you are a resident of Johannesburg, there's, large portions of Johannesburg that are still without water, with those Joburg reservoirs that are extremely low at the moment, and water not reaching into the household pipes of many areas. In fact, we were affected here yesterday as well. We went through the whole day without any kind of water. Imagine the thousands of us that work at the South African Broadcast Corporation having to deal with that crisis alongside you as well. It's so frustrating. The question is always, what would you rather, have a day without any water or a day without electricity? And I just think both of them have their own stresses, but water more than anything else, because electricity, you can let your phone die, you can let your laptop die, and you can always catch up on work and other pressing issues later on. But when you just don't have water, it's the worst inconvenience. Oh, let's not even talk about, one of my producers is making a sign for the fact that you can't even relieve yourself. I'm like, let's not even talk about that. We literally have to shut down all the facilities here in the building. And can you imagine when you've got people coming in for an 8-hour day, just how inconvenient that is? And the unfortunate part is, some people, we experience this periodically. You might not have water for a day, for a couple of hours, maybe for a couple of days, and it causes real discomfort and inconvenience for you and your family. And but there's also large parts of South Africa's communities that have not had water for weeks. On end, and it's insufferable and it's intolerable, and no one should ever be put through that at all. So, just one of the other conversations, and I know yesterday you ventilated it with Ashraf on the show. We're going to take a break, and then on the top of the hour, Ondela is coming through with your top of the hour news. We'll be back on the other side.
The Yellow Guys have a top-class plan to play elite rugby to remain in the top 5. But second-place Giants, the Red and Blacks are undoubtedly chasing the first position. This is the top 14. Clermont-Auvergne collides with Stade Toulousain on Sunday, 16 February at 10 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
This is Tulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief.
What are some of the broad themes that account for such a high level of fatherlessness in this country?
The numbers are going in the wrong direction. More and more children over the years. We've been tracking this at least with the help of the General Household Survey since 1996, but this is the third State of South Africa's fathers report. So more children are living in households without their biological fathers. More children are living with what we call social fathers. We don't want to call them non-biological fathers because this is a broad category. So they live with uncles, mothers, brothers, or other kinds of uncles.
That's Professor Kupano Ratile, who is a professor at Stellenbosch University.
The Morning Brief. Missed it? Find the podcast at safm.co.za.
Choosing something to watch shouldn't feel like a full-time job. Scrolling, second-guessing, and landing on the same comfort show just to dodge the "you started watching without me" chat? Well, here's something that's actually faster than choosing a show, and that's getting your car covered online with Suntime. It takes just 2 minutes to switch, and all you have to do is visit suntime.co.za. Suntime, this is freedom.
Thank you, Bridget. Top stories at 2. Child pornography accused couple denied bail and SASSA court deadline extended. For SAFM News, I'm Ondelambana and a very good day. We start with news just in. The couple facing multiple charges of money laundering and the possession and distribution of child sexual abuse material will remain behind bars until their trial. The pair was denied bail at the Randburg Magistrate Court today after a lengthy bail application. They were arrested following a Federal Bureau of Investigation-led investigation that uncovered an estimated 10 million pieces of child sexual abuse material at their home. In handing down judgment, the presiding magistrate said the court was satisfied with evidence provided by the state not to grant them bail. Police have reported another case of alleged involvement of its members in the illegal mining matter in Stilfontein. Sergeant Griniel Zinyato, attached to Stilfontein Visible Policing, was arrested for allegedly aiding one of the illegal miners who emerged from underground at Shaft 11 in Stilfontein. He has been released on a bail of 1,000 rand by the Stilfontein Magistrate Court and will make the second appearance at the same court on 4 April on charges of corruption, defeating the ends of justice and dealing in gold. Police spokesperson Adele Mayberg says the anti-gang unit found cash on the illegal miner at the Potchefstroom Correctional Centre before a link could be made to Sinyato.
The inmate resurfaced from Buffelsfontein shaft number 11, but the gold amalgam he had in his possession could not be detected. He was then charged for illegal mining and detained at Stilfontein Police Station, where he declared the gold amalgam to the sergeant. The member allegedly offered to assist the inmate to sell the gold and buy him clothes and groceries. After the purchases, Senyato handed the remaining cash, which is believed to be the proceeds of dealing in gold, to the illegal miner.
The Social Security Agency, SASSA, has extended the deadline for beneficiaries to change from gold to black post bank cards from the 28th of this month to the 20th of the next month. Communications and Digital Technologies Minister Soli Malatsi and Social Development Minister Nokuzola Dolashe announced the extension in a joint statement. Refilo Mgwemekwa reports.
SASSA beneficiaries have been urged to make sure that they change to the black post-bank card as soon as they can and well ahead of the March 20th deadline. Both the ministers emphasized that grant payments will continue as per usual even after the 20th of March deadline. And if beneficiaries haven't exchanged their cards by then, their grants will still be paid, but they will need to visit their nearest post office branch to access their funds. Mobile officers will also be dispatched in rural areas to assist as many beneficiaries as possible.
The Cultural, Religious and Linguistic Rights Commission says it will review its findings on alleged human rights violations at Kwasizabantu Christian Mission near Kranskop in northern KwaZulu-Natal decades ago. In 2020, the Commission held hearings on allegations of sexual abuse, negligence and fraud at Kwasizabantu. The Commission's chairperson, Tokum Kwanazi Kaluva, says the hearings did not do justice to the victims. She says they have therefore asked them to come forward to discuss ways of assisting them.
But as the new commission was saying, we're asking them to give us a second chance. We will look at the situation and their complaint and to find out exactly how we can work together so that we ensure that no one in the future experiences what they experienced when they were in the Kwasizabantu mission. So we're hoping the complainants will come back and we can talk.
U.S. President Donald Trump says he's reached a deal with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. It relates to India importing more U.S. oil and gas as part of plans to shrink the trade deficit between the two countries. Speaking at a news conference at the White House, Trump said the U.S. would also increase sales of military hardware to India by billions of dollars and eventually provide Delhi with F-35 fighter jets. The BBC's Samira Hussain reports.
The meeting between Mr. Modi and Mr. Trump came the same day the president announced plans to impose reciprocal tariffs on countries that have trade policies that are unfair to the U.S. Mr. Trump called out India for having some of the highest tariffs in the world. While India would not be exempt from the new White House plan, the two leaders did agree to address their long-running trade disparities. India's commitment to buying more oil and gas from the U.S. is a step towards shrinking that trade deficit.
Recapping the top story, the couple facing multiple charges of money laundering and the possession and distribution of child sexual abuse material will remain behind bars until their trial. The pair was denied bail at the Randburg Magistrate Court today after a lengthy bail application. I am on Dilambana for SFM News Headlines at 2:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
In business, a rand saved is a rand earned. And almost 100,000 businesses trust Outsurance.
Switching to Outsurance has definitely saved me money, 2,107 rands per month. I would recommend Outsurance to all business owners because they will definitely save money. With Outsurance, you always get something out.
For your business insurance, contact Outsurance to see how much your business could save. SMS quote to 43328 for immediate cover or visit outsurance.co.za today. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
The Buccaneers want to demonstrate that they are the reigning champions and nothing will stop them from marching on to the quarterfinals. Meanwhile, Bakaha have a different game plan to return to Hampatele with happy faces. This is the Nedbank Cup Last 16. Orlando Pirates FC tackles Baroka FC this Saturday, 15 February at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC1 and at 3 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game, 'cause I'm your lady.
On this special day of love, SAFM wishes you all a happy Valentine's Day. Whether you're celebrating with someone special or embracing self-love, let's make today a day of kindness, joy, and connection. Happy Valentine's Day from all of us at SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Ndicela umkheni ntombi wentombi yabantu zininzi izinto ndiyaqonda zininzi izinto ndiyavuma zininzi izinto oh ndinike indawo enhlizweni akuthethwa ngabantu besithi hayi kunzima wena uzuthi hayi ndithandwa uzuthi ndithandiwe oh ndinike indawo enhlizweni ndinike indawo Oh
Giselle Brothers coming through with Ndinigindao. That is our 2 o'clock song, bringing us to 10 past 2 as we get into another conversation on the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, on SAFM. And this time around, we're catching up with a veteran South African actor, Buti Ernest Ndlovu, who has been in the industry for well over 4 decades now in film and television, and having, of course, held some really recognizable and respected roles in both film and television. He was Ngwebedla in Isibaya, Kamuka in Gomora, and King Chama in Shaga Ilembe. And he's set to be back on the screens now as Mpini returns for season 2, where he plays the deputy president, Enoch Mbata. And so we thought, well, let's catch up with the veteran actor and reflect on his 4 decades in the television industry, but also just some of his body of work. How are you doing this afternoon, But Ernest?
Hey, Sawubona Shobana.
Sawubona. I am good. I'm good. Thank you so much for asking. I mean, 4 decades when we, you know, it's like as old as some of us are.
Unkulunkulu is so good to some of us.
He really is great. When you started, you know, over 40 years ago, did you think you would be able to sustain a career in acting and in the creative sector, you know, for well into 40 years?
Absolutely had no idea, Mtanam. Absolutely. I was venturing into something that I never thought I was going to get involved in. And I got into it. I loved it. And I guess one was meant, was born to do it, you know. And as you say, how does one sustain? Well, this industry is so unforgiving. It's so tough. It's tough. But I think, you know, so that's why we say thanks to God, thanks Amatonga, you know. You know. So I guess that's it. It's been tough, but yeah. I think I've been very lucky. I've been blessed in so many ways, regardless of the challenges that one is going through. Impilo has never been easy. It wasn't easy.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, Bob Ernest, that's the other part, right, of being a creative. As much as there's great reward, but a lot of what people don't consider is just how up and down this industry is. You know, and when you have yourself and you have a family to take care of and to sustain. I wonder, now that I'm having this conversation with you, you know, I wonder as a man, what kind of emotional roller coaster and processing one goes through when you are in those ups and down cycles.
I think one is to say it wasn't that bad. I'm in a family, and once you have a family, you've got all these people around you to take care of. And you know, where we come from, you've got other relatives, you've got your father, you've got your mother, you've got your brothers, and all these people that you need to take care of. But it's easier way before you actually get into a relationship with your own kid. So, but yeah, I don't know how one has done it. But I think I've been lucky in the sense that I'm not the kind of actor who hasn't really stayed without work for so long. But Nakona, how long is long, you know? You know, sometimes I've sat for a year, 6 months without any work, you know, and then you feel it, and then it's really, really awkward. It's so challenging. It takes so much out of you. And and I mean, as we see what's happening all the time in terms of artists, people who have passed on, and some people who are battling right now in the industry. I'm one of those who is battling, actually, you know. But you know, God has been good to me. And I think one of the things that actually happened was that getting in the Aulani, Pretoria, where I am, where I don't owe a bond or anything, and I just wake up and Chalile, I've got millies, I've got whatever. Even if I don't have money in my pocket, I can just go into the fridge and grab something to eat. But I mean, all of us can afford to do that.
Absolutely.
So it's so challenging. It's so, and I don't think that it was actually meant to be the way it is, for my artists, because I think the support structures in terms of like really taking care of us, like right now we're talking about the commercial exploitation that we don't get. I mean, I was at a mall of the South at some point, and I had a guy from Central Africa approaching me, actually saying, "Hey, anything's over, The guy says, "I don't know you don't know me, but I'm watching in my country and you're speaking French, and yet you don't get remunerated for that."
Yes.
So it's mad out there. It's crazy, But we see things changing. I mean, I've seen things change over the years. Young people, how they're doing it now, social media and everything. And and I'm hoping, I'm hoping in my lifetime I can see these changes that we all crying for.
Yeah.
If at least we're getting that recognition, Yeah, because I mean, we contribute to the fiscus as well. We taxpayers, we do all these things, but at the end of the day, you're on your own, man.
Yeah.
And how many times you go to funerals and suddenly there's representation from government or from whoever, people coming to say, pay my respect to families. We have absolutely got nothing, So it's bad. It's really bad on that bridge.
Yeah. And this is a conversation I think that can never be had enough by creatives, because as you say, Bob Ernest, that creatives contribute to the economy and contribute significantly, as the cultural and creative industries combined contribute immensely to the economy of this country, in ways that can be measured alongside mining, alongside agriculture, and yet it's sort of the lesser respected economic drivers of our times. Let's talk as well about the evolution of the industry. There's been some good changes to certain things, and then some things have stayed stagnant. Because I read somewhere that you said that it's when you look at the industry now, 40 years in, it's delightful to see how it's evolved in ways that you would have dreamt of as a young actor 40 years ago, making reference to just who gets to tell the stories now and how they get to tell the stories.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we started, there were no black production houses out there. There were no black producers out there, So the industry has actually evolved, as you say, And I think now with all these different people coming into the fore, you're actually seeing the stories that are told by the very people who are part of these communities, Because at the end of the day, story that we did, there are so many of them that we did over the years, and we thought, it's lacking substance here. So now, people are collaborating. Even the people that were there before, now they've also realized, this is where it's moving into. So the collaborations that are coming to the fore. For instance, if you look at Ushara Ilembe, if I can make that reference, what we saw in 1985 or 87, with Babu Henry Pele, and what we see now. Look at the complete difference in terms of storytelling, So we are born and the things that we really changed a lot. And there's positive, and as you say, but some of the things have stayed the same. And in my 40 years in the industry, I still have to know how much a budget is for a local production, or for a telenovela, or for it. You never get to know any of these things. At the end of the day, all you hear is that it's small budgets, even if you want to know how much is a small budget, so that at least it can give an idea as you negotiate where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So, it's a massive problem. And I think also the failure of people really, coming together, because it's one sector that has got no representation, as you rightfully said at the beginning. I remember 1996, at Dube, when we formed Power. I was there, and then Power, then it became Kusa, and then, that was it. And now I think there's what's now. I think there's a union now, but still, I know there are a lot of people actually trying their best to bring change, but the bottom line is we're not united.
Absolutely.
And as long as where we are, the status quo is going to remain.
Yeah.
You know, and I think one of the things that is
But
painful
Ernest,
for me,
let's just hold it there for a second. We'll come back on the other side and continue this train of thought.
Santam can cover your car in just 2 minutes. That's faster than sticking to your New Year's resolution to eat healthy, then immediately reaching for the leftover pizza in the fridge and deciding it's a reward for surviving day one. Get your car covered in just 2 minutes so you can live in the moment, not in the worry. Visit santam.co.za. Santam, this is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer and controlling company for its group companies.
Defending champions are eager to display a top-class brand of football to emphasize why they are Wienerkusen, while the Bavarians are confident this is their season. This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Catch the Battle of Giants, Bayer Leverkusen FC versus Bayern München FC on Saturday, 15 February at 7:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Chill Zone with Bertha Charuma.
Coming to you as an individual, you were raised by a single parent, Phumzile Bhengu.
Yes, ma'am.
What was that like?
As much as she's the single mother that raised me, but my grandparents played an important role because she was going to work, feeding us, my mother. There was about 17 of us. Growing up, my mother had to work as early as she could because she already had 4 kids that she needed to take care of. And my grandparents were old, they were not working, so she had to go to work and bring bread. So we didn't really spend that much time with her because she was chiseling and working and making sure that she brings bread. It was awesome, and like any other black child story, that's how I was raised. Simple life.
Nkanyiso Bhengu.
The Chill Zone with Bertha Charuma. Missed it? Find the podcast at safm.co.za. Arts, culture, and robust conversations with Bridget Masinga.
As we continue our conversation with Bab Ernest Ndlovu, who's a veteran South African actor, having reprised many roles in numerous television series, including the likes of Igoli, African Skies, Going Up, Justice for All, Home Affairs, Sokulu and Partners. I mean, the list goes on and on. Madam and Eve, Soul City, Scandal, Shaka Ilembe, Isibaya, and of course Mpini now. Do you have a role that stands out for you as one, perhaps that you either enjoyed more than the others, or perhaps that challenged you more, or even maybe one where you entered that particular role and character one way as an actor, and when you came out of it, there was a profound shift in your talent, your discipline, and who you were as a person?
You mention the work that one has done. One should be a millionaire, isn't it?
You should. You really should.
Yeah. Hey, there's been so many challenging roles, man. I think it's a role that wasn't really substantial was playing King Jam. King Jam, I think, took me to another level, because I had no idea. Yes, I knew about the historical fact that he was the founder of Amazulu, He was the father of King Senzanga Khona, but getting onto that set, and getting the script. I only had 4 days work on it, but it was so challenging in so many aspects. This man with so much weight on his shoulders and just about to pass away, and handing over the reins from Kabai and everything, For me, that was really, I was actually honored to actually play that role. But there's been so many. I think Ingane Zobaba with the Pop of Films produced by Portia Kumede, playing Ubaba Nkosi, and that was also something that what I found very, very, very challenging. But there's been so many.
Yeah.
There's been so many And as actors, which you're getting in there. Yes, you have to become this character, but at the end of the day, once you're done, you've got to come out of that, and face the reality, and basically that's what it is. I think there's a series that I did, which I wrote, and but I didn't do it. I did it in Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
Literally, it was about my life story. It was called Istanbul. It wasn't properly shot because of the lack of equipment, and this was more of a reflection of my own life. So actually, it was called Istanbul, and I sold it to Mzansi Magic. And the similarities in the story and what I went through in my personal life, in terms of growing up in a polygamous marriage. My father had 3 wives. And there were challenges, in that setup.
Yes.
The things that happened, I experienced witchcraft in that thing from an early age in my life. I saw so many things, and things that are still, haunting me up to today. So that role for me was like really so emotional because it brought back so many memories in terms of what I went through as a kid, even in my older age, the things that I experienced. So sometimes I hear abantu bathi umuntu nginesithembu and I'm happily married, but from what I experienced, I just realized which abantwana literally become collateral damage in that setup, because there's no way because of a harmony in that setup. So for me, the witchcraft kind of thing, and I know people say Lento doesn't exist. I lived through it, I saw it, I experienced it. It affected me in so many ways. And the relationships that were broken because of what was happening. Watching my own mother being beaten up and all the nonsense that was happening there. So it had a profound effect on my life growing up, and and that kind of thing, man. I don't know how you shake it off, man.
Yeah.
I just don't know how you shake it off. It's been, and the thing is about it that nobody's ever known about that part of my life, because as one old man told me years ago, which is, Danam, you must never let it show. Yeah. I would cry in my own space. I'll be going through this because you are this child who's obedient, this son who's obedient, who's saying, look, I'm going to take care of my family. But the negativity that you get. I mean, 1989, we were in London doing a dry white season. I was still Lomake, Janet Suzman, Donald Sutherland, Marlon Brando was in the movie. Coming back from that, and my apartment completely getting gutted by fire. And this is in relation in terms of what I'm relating to you now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's devastating, man. And into engayishi ukuthi abantu abayekukutharatha, man.
And
honestly,
it's a conversation that we often indulge on the show. Just spirituality, tradition versus all the other elements from various perspectives. But Ernest, they are showing me that we are fast out of time today, and I think on another day we will have conversations.
I'd love to
talk about the more personal aspects of growing up in the construct of Isitembu. That was Ubab Ernest Ndlovu, who is a veteran actor and, of course, is returning to reprise the role of Deputy President Enoch Mbata in season 2 of Mbini. It's just gone 2:30. Lambana is standing by with the headline news. And then it's Friday today. It is Nalibali. Nalibali is coming through, and then we'll come back and wrap up the show.
Thank you, Bridget. In the news headlines, alleged child porn suspect Darren Wilkin and his partner have been denied bail by the Randburg Magistrate Court in Johannesburg. The pair face multiple charges, including 24 counts of money laundering, possession and distribution of child pornography, and contravention of the Drug Trafficking Act. Police have reported another case of alleged involvement of its members in the illegal mining matter in Stelfontein, and a convicted Russian money launderer has arrived back in Moscow as part of a prisoner exchange with the United States. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
Welcome to Nali Bali. Dancing is a fantastic exercise for children of all ages. It increases coordination, muscle tone, and helps improve one's mood. Children of all ages have something to gain from dancing, from preschoolers to tweens. Children who exercise have a better outlook on life. They have higher self-esteem and feel more energetic, confident, and happier than those who are inactive. Dancing for us as children strengthens our lungs and muscles by increasing our oxygen intake and helping to build stamina. It also helps to prevent them from getting sick. It doesn't have to be professional dancing. Just get up and move your body when you hear the music. Today's story is called Giraffe Cannot Dance, written by Lorato Trock. But before we listen to today's story, let's all get up and dance! Every year, to celebrate the beginning of summer, Nogwaja the rabbit and Piri the hyena held a wonderful party. All the animals hoped that they would be invited. Tudra the giraffe had never been invited to any of these parties. That's why she was very excited when she received an invitation from Nogwaja and Piri.
I will have to take a bath and look very smart for this party,
Tudra told her parents.
We are so happy for you, Tudra. You must enjoy the party. Now go and get ready. You don't want to be late.
Her mother said. Tudra set off to the party.
Nogwaja and Piri have never invited me to their party before.
Tudra said to herself.
Oh, I am going to be the best guest ever. I want to make sure they'll invite me to their party again next year.
When Tudra arrived at the park where the party was being held, she could not believe her eyes. The trees around the park looked so beautiful. Blue, orange, pink, green and red lights trickled in the branches and reflected off the surface of the stream that ran through the park. It was spectacular. Under the trees stood a long table with delicious food. There was sweet green grass, wild fruit, juicy leaves, meat, and many other dishes for the animals to feast on.
Is that the dance floor?
Tudra whispered when she saw a big open space in the middle of the park.
I can't dance, but it will be fun to watch.
As Tudra looked around, Piri and Nogwaja walked onto the dance floor.
Welcome, friends,
said Piri.
Nogwaja and I are happy to be your hosts. So please, enjoy the party.
The animals cheered and talked to each other happily. Everyone ate the delicious food and drank fresh water from the stream.
Wow, what a lovely party,
said Tudra. Then Nogwaja stepped forward and said,
Listen, everyone, our favorite time has arrived. Come, join me. It's time to dance.
All the animals gathered on the dance floor. They shouted as the music started playing. Tudra walked towards a corner to sit down, but Nogwaja stopped her.
Wait, where are you going, Tudra? Come, join the dancing. Hi, come on, Tudra. You're missing out. This is the best part of the party.
Piri added as she directed Tudra to the dance floor. Tudra was sweating. She had never danced before. She was too tall to dance, but she did not want to disappoint Nogwaja and Piri, so she joined on the other animals. was bumping into everyone. She almost fell over her own long legs as she tried to dance.
Hey, Tutla, what are you doing? You nearly knocked over the meerkat, and you almost stood on Fudu the tortoise's shell.
Scolded Nogwaja.
It's just that I can't dance, Nogwaja. I should rather sit down and watch.
Answered Tutla as she felt very embarrassed.
But you accepted the invitation to the party, Tutla. And the best part of the party is dancing. Just try to be a bit more careful.
Said Nogwaja. Tutla didn't know what to do. She wanted to make Nogwaja and Piri happy, but her dancing was causing chaos. Animals scattered as she lashed and scrambled across the dance floor. Finally, Tutla decided it was best to go home.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Tutla said to Nogwaja and Piri as she slunk off home. She felt very sad and knew that she would never be invited to the party again. But to her surprise, Nogwaja and Piri arrived at her house the next day.
We're here to apologize, Tutla. We are so sorry you felt embarrassed. We didn't know that you couldn't dance.
Said Nogwaja.
Giraffes can't dance. Our legs and necks are too long.
Said Tutla.
Well, even though you can't dance, we would still love to include you in our party.
Said Piri.
Would you please be our party manager, Tutla? You can write the invitations and help us organize the party.
Said Nogwaja.
Oh my gosh. Yes, of course. I'd love to be your party manager.
Said Tutla enthusiastically. From that day on, Nogwaja and Piri's summer parties were even better. Tutla was an excellent party manager. And one thing that they all agreed on was that if an animal couldn't dance, they didn't have to. But they were still welcome to the party. And so we come to the end of another Nali Bali story time. Today's story was called Giraffe Cannot Dance, written by Lorato Trock. Did you know that reading and telling stories to children at home can help them do better at school? If you want free stories to read to your children or for your children to enjoy on their own, visit Nali Bali website www.nalibali.org or Mobi site www.nalibali.mobi. You will find stories in 11 South African languages, as well as tips for reading and sharing stories with your children to grow their potential. Also look out for the bilingual Nali Bali Reading for Enjoyment supplements with great children's stories and activities available in newspapers. Nali Bali, it starts with a story.
These are the weekend shows on SAFM. Music of Africa with Shaylan Dikumana. The Jet Set Breakfast with Michelle Constant. Seasons with Khomotso KG Mweketsi. The soundtrack of your life with Ernest Pillay. Weekend Soundowner Classics with Kutlwano Masote. Spotlight with Zai Khan. The Weekend with John Kherika. Rhythm of Africa with Shaylan Dikumana. This is SAFM.
The whispers in the morning as I look in your
This February, the month of love and self-care, at SAFM we're celebrating with you, spreading love to all. Let's embrace kindness, connection, and self-care. And as always, SAFM will continue leading the conversations that move us through love, wellness, and everything in between. This month, let's love ourselves, love each other, and keep the conversation going. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
'Cause I'm your lady, and you are my man.
Every person, no matter who you are, what music you're inclined to listen to, and what you do with your weekends, you need a weekend playlist. It's that musical mix of music that accompanies the lazy weekends, whether catching up with friends and family or just taking some time to reflect. Tune in to The Soundtrack of Your Life with me, Ernest Pillay, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 on SAFM.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
We are wrapping up the show now, and we're catching up with puppet constructor Adrian Kohler, and we're talking about Fastest in Africa, which is going to be staged at the Baxter. This is 30 years after its premiere, following on from its resounding success. The William Kentridge and Handspring Puppet Company are reuniting to present Fastest in Africa at the Baxter from the 26th of February until the 22nd of March. How are you doing this afternoon, Adrian?
You've just stepped out of rehearsals at the climax scene.
Well, listen, I appreciate you stepping out at the climax scene, no doubt. How are the rehearsals going?
They're going extremely well. We have such a wonderful cast, and we're discovering all sorts of new things about the play that we didn't know 30 years ago. So that's the beauty of theatre, I suppose.
Absolutely. I mean, talk to us about this production. So it was first staged 30 years ago. And when we look at South Africa, back then, it was a completely different landscape and completely different conversations, albeit still maybe some of the themes running through till today. But let's reflect on the production 30 years ago when it first came to stage, the motivation behind putting it out, and obviously the reception of this particular piece.
Well, 30 years ago, we were negotiating the new constitution in South Africa, which, because of the nature of the opposing sides then, was full of compromises. We didn't have the bloody war. We avoided that in the run-up to our new South Africa, but there was still a lot of tension within the country as the new constitution was being drafted. And so the play is about a man who makes a pact with the devil, and we set it metaphorically in the colonial period, so it's slightly removed from our more contemporary reality in South Africa. But it gives us a bit of perspective on the time, but it really was then about the compromises that were made in order for us to sail into a new dispensation. And now, 30 years later, the world has shifted so radically. We live in an era where it seems like everybody, or many great leaders in countries, are making this fast impact. So the stakes are much higher in a way, globally. They were very high for us in South Africa then, but now what has changed in the situation is the world. And the story about how people sell their souls for instant gratification is very much more relevant now than it was then.
Absolutely. And on the back of that relevance now of those themes of self-gratification, making a deal with the devil, but also reaching some kind of compromise, when you then decide to put the production on again 30 years later, obviously, a lot of the same themes still very much in play, as you say, still more magnified in relevance till today. What other considerations have perhaps this current iteration of the production taken into account to reflect the times of 2025?
Well, we have a whole new generation of performers now. People who've grown up in a different era to the one that we were part of then. So we have a new generation, both puppeteers and actors in the team. Got a very strong cast led by Atando Kani. And so what the new energy that is coming is really from this new take on the subject matter. But we also felt that 30 years later, what was locked up in the storeroom of the show was a whole enormous set of video animation. The brilliant William Kentridge had created all this specifically for the show. It would never be seen if we didn't do the show again. Also, there were some rather nice puppets back then. And they were also lying in boxes. And so with the combination of a new generation of performers, a new era, and a lot of the themes still relevant, we thought it's an opportune moment to resurrect this incredible set of animations that William has made. So it's music by James Phillips and Warwick Sweeney. The late James Phillips, this is the last music he composed before he was killed by a car accident. So there's incredibly precious stuff that was just lurking around waiting to be used again.
Absolutely. Help us understand how one sort of approaches balancing the use of puppets. And I've seen some imagery, obviously, these aren't like small scale puppets. They're not human scale, but they're sufficiently sized. How does one approach balancing the use of puppetry alongside live acting and all the other various components that make up this production as well? Because I'm assuming that the actors actually take control of these puppets?
Yes, no, absolutely they do. Everybody has to touch a puppet. Some of the performers have more involved roles with puppets than other actors, but everybody's using puppets. I suppose what we fought, our company is 45 years old this year, what we have fought all these years is for the acknowledgement that puppets are not just for children, that they can actually hold great drama, that they always have in decades and centuries past played very serious roles. It's only very recently that they've come to be associated with children's entertainment in the 20th century. But so this is one of the plays that tackles very deep themes about destiny, about colonialism, and the puppets are played by a team of office workers set in Mozambique in the 1920s, and the office is the office of the devil. His telephone exchange is in touch with the whole of the continent. He controls mining, he controls the destinies of countries, and he's got, through the telephone exchange, a direct line to God.
It definitely sounds like a very deep. Apologies for that. It sounds like a very deep, but also very darkly comedic journey for audiences who will be coming through.
Yeah, there's plenty of humor in it, but it's tackling heavy themes. In the eastern Ukraine, America wants the rare earth metals. In the eastern Congo, the same powers that be want those rare metals that only occur there. So destabilize the region, then it makes it more available. You don't have to bargain the price. All you have to do is supply guns, and you can get it. So these things are happening right now in the world, and we feel that the show is opening at the right time.
Absolutely. Adrian Kohler, thank you so much for the time. And of course, Adrian is one of the brilliant minds behind this production, coming back to stage after 30 years from its initial phenomenal success. The William Kentridge and Handspring Puppet Company are bringing back together on stage Fastest in Africa. And it's going to be at the Baxter from the 26th of February. That's when it opens, and it closes on the 22nd. So if you happen to find yourself in Cape Town, you can definitely go and have a look. A wonderful cast also behind this one. The likes of Atandwa Kani, Jennifer Stain also here, as well as Mongi Dombeni, who are going to be part of the cast amongst so many others. We are going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back on the other side of this and wrap up the final moments of the show.
Specsavers now looks after your hearing as well as your vision with Specsavers Audiology. With 60 stores and counting, we are South Africa's largest audiology group. For a limited time only, buy one rechargeable hearing aid and get 50% off the second. You heard right. Buy one rechargeable hearing aid and get 50% off the second. Find your nearest store at specsavers.co.za. Specsavers Audiology. Test your hearing and join the conversation. T's and C's apply.
Santam can cover your car in just 2 minutes. That's faster than scrolling through your streaming app, choosing a show, then deciding against it to rewatch another show because you didn't want to start without your partner and sit through the awkward "I started without you" chat. Get your car covered in just 2 minutes so you can live in the moment, not in the worry. Visit santam.co.za. Santam. This is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer and controlling company for its group companies.
Upgrade your TV game with the SABC TV License Rewards. It's your golden ticket to VIP treatment. Imagine signing up at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za, breezing through a few steps, and bam! Instant reward. Just for being you. Plus, pocket up to 500 Rand back. That's the cherry on top. But wait, it's not just about the cash. We're talking about sweet deals and epic rewards. Think discounts on all your favorite things, from shopping to travel and entertainment. Your payment unlocks a world of fun. So, why wait? Dive into the excitement. Join the SABC's TV License Rewards at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za. Hit those buttons and watch your TV experience level up. T's and C's apply. Remember, TV license fees aren't just payments. They make a difference.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
So in the final moments, we're catching up with Michelle Sansom, who's the producer of Color Your Plate. And an exciting new season is coming back for season 4, bringing together passionate cooks from across SA. How are you doing, Michelle?
Thanks, and you?
I'm great, thank you. I mean, in the little bit of time that we have, what can folks look forward to from season 4 of Color Your Plate?
Absolutely. Well, Color Your Plate with Two is really a dynamic cooking show that celebrates South Africa's rich culinary landscape. It's a search for Mzansi's next best cooking star. And basically, every season ups the ante of the competition. What's great about Color Your Plate is that it's a very relatable cooking show. So it's everyday meals that you can cook and get inspiration at home and try at home, and while you enjoy the entertainment along the way.
You've got some interesting judges for this season, including the likes of Thembisa Mdota as well.
Absolutely. So we got Thembisa, who's just so vibrant on the show, and then Ruben Riffel, who's a top chef in South Africa, and Arthur Ramaroka, who's the head nutrition of Koo.
Now, let's talk about, the competitive aspect of the show, but there's also quite the educational component that comes with this particular format.
Yes, absolutely. So it's all about a balanced plate, so making sure that you have all colors on your plate. So, from your protein to your veggies, a real balanced meal. So it has a lot of education around nutrition around it. And every episode has a theme. So, for instance, this episode episode 1 was about Valentine's Day. So really giving ideas for Valentine's dinners. The repeat of that is on Sundays at 4 p.m., so don't miss that. And then episode 2 is family well-being. So it's all about well-being for the family and getting some ideas for nutrition for kids. So really bringing in that educational aspect to the show.
Yeah. As we wrap, Michelle, the TX for the folks, you did mention that we've got a repeat on Sunday at 4.
Yes.
And then what is the live broadcast, so to speak?
Absolutely. So the main show is on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. on SABC2. There's a repeat on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. and then a third repeat on Sundays at 4 p.m. all on SABC2.
Awesome. Sounds like exciting times in the kitchen indeed. Thank you so much for the time. That was Michelle Sansom, who is a producer of Color Your Plate with Koo. And of course, as you heard, Tuesdays 7 p.m. on S2 is when you have a date alongside those celebrity judges and the very colorful and vibrant contestants. From our end, it's time for us to say goodbye. It's been quite the week, and we thank you so much for choosing to be in conversation with us. Ashraf is standing by. He's coming through with his team. In fact, his team are busy staring me down through the window right now. I am sure that hot on the agenda is going to be a conversation around Duduzile Zuma Sambutla's apology to the SG of the MK, Floyd Shivambu. She's issued a second apology after the criticism that the first apology was really to her father, the founder of MK, alongside the constituency, and not really to him. So there's been a second apology there. And then they're also going to be touching base with our Sophie Mukwena, of course, on the back of that 38th AU summit that has been happening in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. So I'm sure lots of updates and reflections coming out from that particular region. From myself and my team, have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday, inshallah, God willing. We do it again.
The Talking Point with Kathy Motlatlana.
People still believe in love. People still admire love. We're going to go with this times, the love industry has become very complicated due to a lot of things. Our beliefs, the way we see things as people. So it has complicated the pureness.
Linda, to the love
yes.
industry has done.
Yes, it's an industry on its own now. It's an industry on its own.
Linda Gwensa.
The Talking Point with Kathy Motlatlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.